I mean, listen, at the end of the day, she put something in this album. I don't know what it is, but it's highly addictive. That's why I had that bad boy in the thumbnail, because this thing gets you hooked. That intro track, mwah, chef's kiss, bro. It is just amazing front to back for that minute and a half. And it really brings you in. What's up, everyone? Today we are going to be doing a review of Tinashe's album Quantum Baby. Now, at first, I wasn't even going to fully do anything with this album, but as I've given myself time to listen to it over the past 2 weeks it's been out, it's really started to grow on me, and I really started to like it. I'll kind of lead starting off with some of the talk of the singles that dropped, because that kind of gives you the first idea of what you get when you listen to an album. And with this, as everyone probably knows, as Nasty was the first single that came out. I was actually surprised that it got as big as it did. She picked a good time to premiere it, with it being the date of her Coachella performance. So knowing you're going to get talked about there. And then her really embracing the buzz, the social media buzz with TikTok and everything, to really blast that song off, having it grow into his own thing, as you know, and go viral there, really helped, I think, push this album. As, like I said, having that kind of song, really does help start off that. As I'll kind of get into later, that song I definitely did enjoy. At first, I wasn't too huge on it, but as I gave it a few more listens, it started to grow on me. You start hearing the little touches, which I'll kind of get into. And obviously, if you've watched any media of her talking about the song, she's kind of gone over. But surprisingly, like I said, I was still at the end of the day surprised it popped off, because, for example, in her last project, for example, BB Angel, the song Needs off that one was a song I loved. That was like a 5 out of 5 song for me. It was catchy, infectious. The video, I think, was very interesting too. The visuals that she gave for it, with it being in the supermarket, like, I thought that was going to be a song that was going to pop off, and it never got that buzz. So I feel like Nasty got that buzz that Need should have gotten overall as a song. But at the end of the day, as someone who does like her music, especially more recently, she became independent, I'm not going to fully complain. But I kind of was surprised that song popped off how it was. But it's good that she kind of got that for there. And the next single she released was Getting No Sleep, which was closer to the album release. It was about, I think, 3 weeks before, if I'm not mistaken. And that song, like I said, as I'll fully get into when I get to the individual tracks, was solid. It was all right. I think it served well as a single, just because when obviously you're dropping singles, you're trying to give people a taste of what the album's going to have, at least for most musical projects. So Nasty definitely gave a little bit of an idea of some of the tracks on the album, like that and No Broke Boys. And it serves as a more like commercial, like, I guess more mainstream sounding song, while Getting No Sleep was kind of more focused on what the majority of the album was going to sound like. So it kind of gave a taste of both. Interestingly enough, though, Getting No Sleep to me was one of the weaker tracks actually on the album, once I had the time to really, listen to it. Because at first, like I said, Nasty did take a little bit of time to grow on me. But that track never fully made the strides that I thought it was going to. But overall, those were like, kind of an idea of what the singles were like. Obviously, she did her usual Instagram promotion. She didn't have a video for Getting No Sleep, but Nasty obviously had a video of its own popping off on TikTok. So you really had that with, using that too for the whole branding of like matching her freak and everything really helps set a nice momentum for the album. So she at least did a good job of building off that, building up for that. But to get into the album itself here, the first track here we're going to start off with is No Simulation. And that track is one that I love. I had to give it a 5 out of 5, because when you're getting introduced to an album, the intro track is so big. Like, if I think of some of my favorite albums I've ever listened to, like To Pimp a Butterfly, for example, has Wesley's Theory. There's probably other ones I could think of. That's one of the first ones I think of, because it gives you an idea, especially from that being so different from like Kendrick's previous album. In general, like that intro track sets up the mood and the style of pretty much what you're going to get throughout the whole album. Obviously, there's going to be some kind of variance in there, but that's going to set the start of it. Like On Sight of Yeezus is another one where it's like, you heard that and you were like, oh, okay, I know what we're about to get into now with this project. So that one's a 5 out of 5. Just even the first time listening to it, even though it took some of the other songs some time to really like for me to get an idea of how I wanted to rate it. When I first heard No Stimulation, I knew it was gonna be one of my favorite tracks. Just hitting that play button, you're like, I'm gonna listen to this album, and you hit this play button, and you just get the vocals in there, and they're beautifully layered. Even though the song is only a minute, it's just I can't even put it into words. Like it's put in, it's short, it's simple, but it gives you a taste of what you're gonna get. And I really think it's 5 out of 5. I think, even though while some might take this almost as a negative, I think as a track itself, it's 5 out of 5. I think easily the best track on the album. Which is kind of interesting because then Getting No Sleep is the next track there, which was one of my least favorite tracks on the album. I gave that 3 out of 5. Like I said, on my grading scale, that's going to be average. Getting No Sleep was definitely solid. It's all right. Like it fits a certain mood. But that track as a whole, it's just missing something for me, like just going through it, I'm like, okay, production's kind of solid. Like I said, she's been definitely embracing more like less poppy, a little bit more like eccentric production, definitely with her more recent projects, especially since she's become independent. And like it's like, okay, it's nice to play in the background, like vibe to it. But it definitely wasn't one that stuck out even after multiple re-listens of that album. But now the next track that we have there is going to be Thirsty. And Thirsty was one that at first I had more of that and When I Get You Alone, which I'll talk about later, were tracks that kind of moved up on me. Thirsty though, the production itself obviously is good, just like a lot of the other tracks. Just some of your notes with this album. I definitely like the production. It keeps a similar sound while also staying varied and refreshing throughout the album, which is something I definitely appreciate. And to be honest, I would say the two songs I probably have at a 3 here, which first one's Getting No Sleep, and then the other one I'll talk about later. Those ones probably production-wise weren't as good as the other ones. I kind of like her flow on the song though for Thirsty. I mean, if it fits the beat. Like I said, it just kind of has this feeling to it that kind of goes to it. It flows well with her vocals. She does a great job of switching between more of that like half rapping, whispering style to like full on vocals. And it fits a nice balance in there overall. So that was really, like I said, a track that I liked. It grew on me as I listened to it more. And so, like I said, starting off with a 5 out of 5 and then a 4 out of 5. Second track being average. I mean, that's already a good start to an album. Which then leads into Red Flags. Which Red Flags I gave a 4 out of 5 as well. I think the song is good as well. It's definitely more kind of mysterious, which the production perfectly matches it. Great job of layering vocals as well, which is something that she uses a lot and has been using a lot recently and does a great job at it. Just the overall sound of it. Like I said, song's 2 minutes. With a lot of the album, it is shorter, which some people might knock on her for. But to be honest, I enjoyed it. I'd rather have the album be, for example, like 8 tracks or 9 tracks. And if they're all super high quality tracks or well quality, they're all good at tracks. I'd rather have that than a 15, 16 song album where there's going to be 3 or 4 songs that you really could have done without at the end of the day, especially if it's not going to be like, a classic like album, and it's very hard to hit those marks. So I feel like this did just enough of being long enough. Obviously as a fan, you want, the more the merrier. But I do want a cohesive body of work, especially with this being more of similar to a trilogy. It kind of matches nicely that it's maybe a little bit shorter and not really overstaying its welcome too much overall as an album. Especially because BB Angel that was 7 songs on its own. So these are definitely smaller. These probably wouldn't surprise me if these were all kind of considered almost for like one musical project. And she was like, I'm going to split this in 3. They all kind of have their own style to them. And she wanted to rock with that one. But with Red Flags, that was a solid one. Switches up the singing flow on it, which I really enjoyed. Which then gets into Cross That Line, which I gave another 4 out of 5. Intro I love, with the vocals being more, like ethereal, just like listening into it. with a nice drop into the beat. Um, which her obviously talking about being more vulnerable about things and wanting to cross that line to be in a relationship. But production was interesting enough to definitely keep you engaged. I like the vocals, and like I said, the hook at the beginning and end too were like a hook, line, and sinker. Her hook, line, and sinker. It's just did a great job of delivering it. I really enjoyed that. And that gets into When I Get You Alone, which was a song that I started at a 3 out of 5, and I moved it up to a 4 out of 5 as I started to enjoy it the more times I listened to it. It's definitely interesting, as she has this more, I don't want to say whiny, but it's kind of like a whiny type of flow to it as she's singing through it over there. Which, as you've heard from the previous track, she's really been switching up her cadences as she's going around on each one of these songs, which you do appreciate. Obviously, you want an artist to be able to be evolving as they're going through, but she does it well enough too, where she also keeps the song enjoyable, and keeping it there. What really got me though on When I Get You Alone was the back half. I would say the last like 45 seconds, where it kicks into that more the instrumental change with the just with the regular singing, and just that back half of the song really brought it from, all right, this song's all right, to like, this is a good song. Because that second half, like, first time I heard it, I had to replay it, and as I listened to it more and more often, I was like, the rest of the song does well enough to kind of get that 3, and then that back minute almost with that beat switch really took the song to a new level and really bumped it up to a 4 for me. Now, when it comes to these last two tracks, it's No Broke Boys and Nasty. Obviously, these songs definitely keep a similar kind of cadence and setup or like mood compared to the other tracks. They don't fit directly as well as some of the other ones all with each other. Which I appreciate. She kind of throws those on the back end. Similar kind of like what Drake did with Honestly Nevermind, where he had most of his house type music and everything in there, and then for the last track he had Jimmy Crooks on there, which is like regular like rap and Drake, so there's like a song for like those kind of fans. So to start off with No Broke Boys, I give that a 3 out of 5. It was average. It's a solid song. The hook's definitely infectious. It gives me an idea of a song that could go like TikTok, social media viral. Especially with the vocals, with like having multiple vocals on that hook there, and the hook is solid. But as an overall song, it just didn't really strike me as like a highlight song on there. I kind of maybe even could have done without it. But it's like solid enough. Like I said, there's nothing like bad on there. To be honest with that song, it's kind of like no scrubbish, I would say, especially in like the messaging. At the end of the day, it's pretty much like a girl's anthem. So for me as a guy, for example, I don't think it appealed to me as much, probably as like I said, an average Tinashe listener. I feel like I'm with more of her fans, especially female fans, they'll like that song more. But for me, kind of had to give it a 3 out of 5 there. But it's definitely something that definitely has viability to it, and definitely could make something out of it. Next, you got Nasty as the last track there. That one is a big one because even though it's similar to No Broke Boys, I think what really sets it apart is the small subtle touches that they made in there, which you start to notice at first when after you do a listen or two, but then after also seeing her talk about in interviews and stuff, it's just really appreciative of that. I'll kind of put a quick snippet of it actually right here.
But when it drops out to that 808, that's the moment.
Yeah, that's that shit.
That's as they say.
My favorite harmony vibe is the
Oh yeah. Yeah, to me this moment was almost like reminiscent of like Parliament or something. Like who makes that note choice? So then we layered a synth with it.
And then with that, also, just in general, like I said, you kind of notice that stuff, like this, with the small hums in there. I also like that interview there where she's talking with her producer and they're kind of going over with how they made it. But the instrumental is what really sets it apart. I think The hook itself is more infectious than maybe No Broke Boys as well. But the production sets it apart. I feel like I can listen to Nasty, like the instrumental, and just let that play out and really enjoy the song on its, like, that instrumental on its own. While No Broke Boys, it's like, all right, but I didn't have that same kind of feeling to it. So that really what separated Nasty from being good to average compared to No Broke Boys. Those are both kind of the same kind of vibes, um, like I mentioned before. So with that there, that's mainly kind of what I get out of this album. Overall, I really feel like my closing thoughts here. This album is probably one of her best ones she's done as an independent artist. I think the only one I would put over it since then is Songs for You. As a Tinashe fan, that kind of got me into her. I kind of always checked her out previous to that. And she was kind of hit or miss for me. As anyone that kind of follows her, you know her issues with her label and her sounds. And to be honest, that probably infected as me as a listener kind of viewed her, is because, you know, she had songs where she was really trying to go for like that kind of mainstream sound that really wasn't appealing to me as a fan overall. And I think when she was able to get independent, she really got to explore her sounds more. And that's why I love like No Songs for You, because it has a variety. It has like Hopscotch in there. It has Stormy Weather. It has Make Room for Us. Like there's songs that like I could list on there and remember. Even Know Better. Like there's just so much variety in there. I definitely that'd probably be my top album of hers. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone would look back on this and say that you know, Quantum Baby's their favorite album. I think it edges out 333. 333 was solid, and I think it definitely beats out her previous album as well. So with that, I had to give it 8 out of 10. It kind of matched out well too, because if you kind of add all the scores up, it kind of made it there, which made it pretty easy. Got to give that one a gold trophy there. Like I said, it's definitely a great album that you'll definitely enjoy, and it has great replayability. Like I said, to get that gold status, that's going to be an album that when I talk about that person as an artist, it's going to be one of those top albums I mention. Might not be a classic. Don't think it's a classic from listening into it for the past 2 weeks, but it's definitely a solid album and one of my favorite Tinashe projects that she's done. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm curious what you guys think on some of the tracks, especially more for fans, on like Getting No Sleep and No Broke Boys. And maybe if you thought some of these songs weren't as good as I thought they were. I'd really like to hear that discourse and kind of get an idea of how you guys view each one of these. Because obviously, you know, you look on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and you kind of see all the heavy fans being like, "Oh my God, you're amazing," whatever. But I really want to try to get an idea of like what other people are thinking about this. So, you know, feel free, comment, subscribe. You want to see some more of this? I'll probably get into more of this. I might review some of her earlier projects and kind of dive into those after listening to this. Kind of tells you how good of an album it is in general. And that kind of speaks to the highly addictive nature. But like I said, at the end of the day, let me know how you guys feel. Feel free to comment, subscribe. And besides that, guys, I'm out.